Alright, so I just got done watching the Knuckles show, Knuckles series, whatever you want to call it, on Paramount Plus, and it's been about maybe 12-ish minutes or so since I've watched it. Still kind of letting everything sit and settle, but I thought that I'd go ahead and record this video that's sort of rambling and not really scripted or anything like that, just to give my honest opinion on the series and how I felt about it and what I think about it overall, I guess. And this is going to be drastically different than, I'm pretty sure, majority of the people, because even before I got to sit down and finish watching the rest of the show, I saw a lot of people talking about how it's the worst Sonic show ever. Some people were saying that it's worse than Prime, even though Prime itself is its own league kind of thing. I don't really have much of an opinion on Prime. I didn't really watch too much of it. I didn't like what I saw of Prime, but I wouldn't clarify as Prime being the ultimate worst show as I let time go on and really think about what Prime was. I don't know, it's just I find it funny that people are arguing about how bad it is. And I mean, I'll tell you, I woke up this morning really excited to get into it, and just seeing all the negative stuff, all the negativity on Twitter, because it was just all over my timeline, just from people I follow, from people that I know of, just hard on trashing the show, making it seem like the Knuckles series is I don't know, is the worst thing ever. And I didn't know what to think. I kind of fell into a depression. I didn't really want to do the video that I did today without watching everything else, but I thought that I'd go ahead and do it because I guess I wanted to get my thoughts and opinions out on the show before it gets buried underneath this slew of just hatred towards the show. I don't think I see many people talking very positive about the show, and after watching the show I can kind of see why some people are unfavorable to it, but I just don't share that same opinion, and I respect the opinions of everyone around me. It's just it sucked because I wanted to talk to people that liked the show, and I wanted to see some more people who like the show post about liking the show, but it just felt like an absolute war zone. I saw so many tweets from different, even figureheads in the community just absolutely ripping the show to shreds, and to each their own opinion, but it just felt like if anyone were to have said something positive about the show, or if anyone were to have said that they liked the show, or if anyone were to have reached out to someone and were just hey, you're kind of being too harsh on the show, it just honestly felt like a hostile environment on Twitter, which, shocking. Twitter, a hostile environment, of course. After watching the show, again, I can honestly see why some people didn't like it. There were some bits and pieces that were kind of questionable to me. It wasn't questionable enough to me to just outright just pause the episode that I was watching and go, okay, I can't finish this, or okay, this is garbage, because honestly I really loved it, which sounds so weird and so total opposite to say, and I'm not trying to stand out or anything. This is genuine. I really enjoyed the Knuckles series. I really liked the action of it. I loved the story that it was trying to tell, and I loved Wade. I feel like Wade as a character is really fun. He's whimsical. He's got a tragic backstory that revolves his dad abandoning him in a TJ Maxx, which, it can be funny thinking about it, but we would have never gotten to know that much about Wade if they hadn't written that into the show. And I kind of feel more connected with Wade as a character rather than being this background character that's just a cop in Green Hills. And I feel like he exists in this universe that the Sonic movie has created. This universe, if it wasn't already obvious, is drastically separate from the video games. Yes, it takes inspiration from the video games, and yes, it draws some material from said video games, but the movies, and to this show to an extension, nowhere was it written down or said that it was going to be faithful to what the games represented. And I think that a lot of people go into these movies, especially from the Sonic fan base, thinking that it's going to be Sonic Adventure or Sonic Adventure 2, which, I mean, Sonic Movie 3 has already been confirmed that it takes a lot of inspiration from Adventure 2 and will have a lot of Adventure 2 elements in it, so it doesn't really count. But this show feels very safe. Like it feels like they played it very safe with this show, and for the better good, yes. I do think it's good that they did play the show too safe. Again, I know human characters are not everyone's favorite thing. I get it, 100%. I understand. As a Sonic fan, I understand. We don't care about the human characters. That's usually the general consensus of human character. But the games that these movies are taking inspiration from and the universe that they are building this movie universe in takes place in a universe where humans interact with Sonic. Now, will they ever steer away from doing something like this? I don't know, maybe in the future. It'd be kind of weird, but like I feel like, it's just gonna keep being the general like thing, like humans and Sonic characters being together. That's just how it's gonna be. Now, the characters that they did introduce in the Knuckles show, I will say, are probably some of the most forgettable ones you will meet. I'd say aside from Wade's family, like Jack Sinclair, he was just there. Like he didn't really play that big of a role, even though it seemed like he would have. But I mean, the only purpose he really served was how Knuckles got the motorcycle and the hat. And then you've got Wade's dad, who again abandoned him, so again another disposable character to just never ever see return ever again after the show. You had the buyer, which I felt kind of disappointed that there wasn't enough screen time for him, but again, he's sort of the type of character that didn't really need a whole lot of backstory or anything related to him that needed to really be expanded on. Same with Agent Willoughby and Agent Mason. They were just two corrupt gun agents that decided to go out on a whim and try and capture Knuckles for their own monetary gain. It just really serves the purpose of trying to establish that Gun is this secretive organization that is very shady, and I really do appreciate that, because we even got that in the movie, in movie 2. While I know a lot of people don't like the wedding scene as much and they think it's pointless, but it goes a long way in trying to explain that Gun themselves are a secretive, shady agency. It's a government agency, a secret workforce that's not really publicly known. Even Wade's sister, working for the FBI, didn't even know that the gun agents, GUN, just doesn't exist to the face of the earth aside from really, really secretive part of the government. And yes, I will agree, there were some moments that were very cringeworthy. They were cringeworthy, but it's not like I had to stop and pause and be like, oh, I can't believe they did this. I'm not hate watching the show. I'm enjoying what I'm consuming, and I really did enjoy some of it. And yes, it was corny, and yes, it was cringeworthy, but I think that adds to the charm of it. Like, how are you supposed to be serious in a show that's supposed to be centered around an anthropomorphic red talking echidna? Like, it's you can't really take it serious. And for those moments that were very cringeworthy, I don't really know what to say other than that I agree. It doesn't mean that it's bad. Something can be cringe and not be bad, like outright bad. I'm cringe. I guess I'm cringe for liking the show too. Could it have been more? Yeah, 100%. Definitely. It could have been more. The Knuckles series by far could have been so much more than what we got, but I'm honestly happy with what we got, and the action scenes alone were just really nice to see. I loved seeing Wade get in on the action, because for the longest time, especially even dating back to I think even Sonic X, when people hated human characters, the big thing was human characters are useless and they do nothing. So this series, they did it in Sonic X2, where Sonic X, the humans did do stuff. Chris did stuff too. I don't outright hate Sonic X, if you're wondering, and I don't hate Chris either, you know, to each their own. But you know, these human characters are doing something, and I feel like in the movies and in this TV show, they're doing more than what you would have expected out of human characters, and I really like that. It's nice. It adds on to the realism that this series and this franchise is trying to go for when it comes to the movies and the shows, and it's just, I really appreciate that they're actually taking time to try and flesh these characters out, and it didn't really feel like they were trying to do something that's just like, oh, let's do it because money, you know. At least that's not how I view it. Honestly, that's not how I view it. I guess I could see how, especially with that one scene in, I think it's whichever episode it is where Wade's alone. I think it was episode 4. I'm gonna do like a complete rewatch of the series too, and I'm gonna be watching it with some friends and seeing their reactions to things, just because I like being like this like sort of middleman where I love the show, and I'll outright say that I love the show, but I also like to see how others react to it, and I like seeing what people think of it, just because it's interesting to see how some might perceive the show different from others, and that's just because I'm an open-minded person, I guess. But there's specifically a moment where you're with Wade alone, and he's been captured by Jack, and he gets sent to the battleground in the sky, or whatever they call it, and he meets Pakachmak, and it turns into this trip section where Wade's dressed as Knuckles, and it turns into a musical, and it's very entertaining. I feel like a lot of people really dislike this scene, despite the fact that, you know, the musical number that they were trying to do came off as, again, cringe and very awkward and out of place. Kind of gave some insight to Knuckles' history and his past, and I like how they do it. They do it in their own special way. It's not like, okay, here's Knuckles and here's how this happened, and this happened, and this happened. They literally took a twist with Wade being the centerpiece and showing what happened to Knuckles, giving us hints, like little snippets, like little seedlings of what they're trying to show. I don't feel like Knuckles' character really grew at all. A little bit with Wade. I feel like Wade, for the most part, had some character development. Very, very, very little character development I could see from Wade. But Knuckles, I can definitely tell there wasn't much there. I'll do one last ramble, and then I'll call it. And then I'll rewatch the show over the next few days and next few weeks with friends, family, and whoever else wants to watch the show. I hope that can like strengthen my opinions and really get me to where I need to be, and I'll do a follow-up video to this. The show really reminded me a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, and I think the reason they did that is because that formula is there. The formula for introducing these characters to a non-Sonic the Hedgehog fan base, such as the general audience, is already preset. Now, when it comes to other characters, it might be a little bit different, such as Shadow. I feel like Shadow is going to be drastically different if they do a Shadow spinoff. But for something like Knuckles the Echidna, a character I don't think anyone would have ever thought getting a spinoff show would have ever happened. It took a lot of cues from Sonic the Hedgehog 1, and they know that that formula worked. And you can see that formula work because I feel like a lot of people from the general audience really do have such an appeal to it. My dad even has an appeal to it, which is super weird. I don't know why. It's just so interesting seeing, like, I guess your parents get into something like this, even though, you know, for years they never really batted an eye or took any kind of interest into it. So it's nice to see that it's appealing to people outside of the norm for Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm very excited to see where this takes us. Now, I know that they might take a lot of the feedback, especially a lot of the negative feedback from the fan base, and rework it. So hopefully the next time we get to a spinoff, it's not as bad for those people, or perceived as bad for those people. But coming from someone, and I mean, again, genuinely coming from someone who's a Sonic fan and actually loved the show and saw the potential that they were trying to do with it, I think is a solid show. It could have given more. It could have definitely given more. I don't disagree that it didn't have enough. Am I saying that right? I feel like I'm not saying that right. It's late. It's almost midnight, and I'm rambling about Knuckles the Echidna. So to put my final thoughts on the show, it's great, fun with family, it's fun with friends, it's a harmless show. It is nowhere near the worst thing ever to happen for Sonic the Hedgehog. But yes, that's how I feel about the Knuckles show. It's been almost half an hour now that I've been rambling. I'm sure this is probably going to cut down to quite a decent size, and I'm very much looking forward to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and thank you for listening to my rambling. At the end of the day, form your own opinions, make your own decisions, don't let anyone influence you otherwise. Go into it with your own open mindset. Honestly, if you've been convinced that it is the absolute most worst show in the entire world, please at least give it a shot. It's not as bad as everyone's making it out to be. I can guarantee you. To a degree, for some Sonic fans, may be pretty bad. But in my opinion, my genuine opinion, it is not as bad as everyone's making it out to be. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.